Thank you for listening to Serves You Right. Today, I got a chance to talk to Sother Teague, author of many books. We talk mostly about I'm Just Here for the Drinks, and the creative force behind New York's legendary Amor y Amargo, a bar that is famous for having 0 margaritas. In fact, 0 citrus. They don't shake drinks. We get to talk about Sother's unique path from culinary school all the way to one of the more focused bar programs in the world. We get to explore where bitterness fits in with our human evolutionary psychology and taste preferences, and how exactly you can have a bar that doesn't sell pina coladas in Cleveland. I don't know how else to say it. Sother gets to get into some of his lessons on craft, repetition, and we get to talk about why exactly cocktail names matter so much. Super fun episode for me. Last but not least, announcement. We are going to change our publishing schedule from 2 a week to 1 a week for the foreseeable future. For anyone who depends on those, I do apologize. I do foresee having a problem during the holiday season doing 2 a week, as I am still working full-time in a restaurant. So I want to pull back while I have a chance and make sure I'm all prepped up for the holiday season. Awesome. So with no further ado, here is Sother Teague, and thanks for listening to Serves You Right. Sother Teague, thanks for joining us today.
Sure. Oh, we're already recording? Wow.
Oh, yeah.
You snuck it in there. I didn't even see the countdown normally.
Oh, yeah. I start at the beginning, yeah.
So you get that B-roll.
I'm a sneaky guy.
Got to have that B-roll.
Yeah. But that was a funny way to start. Yeah. So yeah, I think if you don't mind, I've really enjoyed your work. I think it's really impressive what you do, and we're going to talk about your spot, talk about your book, and just everything. But if you could give a quick summary, like who you are and what you do, why should my listeners, mostly restaurant and bartending people, why should they care about you?
Why should they care about me? I mean, I think we're in the business of caring, so there's that. They should care about me because we're all in this together. But beyond that, I'm a 25-year veteran of bartending here in New York. Prior to that, I was a chef for about 12 years. I went to culinary school when I was a young man. Have been in hospitality all my life. My dad owned a bar when I was a young boy. Nothing like anything we do that we consider a bar today. Just a dive, it's called the Anchor Bar. It was populated with a lot of Harley Davidson enthusiasts. It was basically a biker bar.
Sure. Well, I mean, probably like my favorite type of bar, but
yeah,
honestly,
it was a little edgy and dangerous. I remember, lots of bar fights and, broken glass on the floor all the time. Different time, different world. I'm a little older, I think, than our industry standard. I'm 55. But I chefed all over the country. I left home when I was 17. I've lived in 12 states. And I did most of that cooking. I arrived in New York and got behind a bar. It was supposed to be a 6-month gig. I stood behind that bar for 3 years. I had a history of being a researcher and a teacher. I was the research and technical chef for a show on the Food Network called Good Eats with Alton Brown. And then I went on to be an instructor at the New England Culinary Institute. So, I have this drive to learn and teach. So when I first got behind the bar, I started digging in, and this is 25 years ago, so it kind of predates the ease and access of smartphones and the internet. So I was digging around for books. There's a great bookstore here in New York still called Kitchen Arts and Letters. I would go there and find interesting books about cocktails, and then you find a community, and then there were blogs and things like that. So taught myself a lot of stuff. Started out with a wide interest in what we were doing behind the bar, and then sort of narrowed that down over some years and became quite focused. And that's sort of the origin story of Amor y Amargo, my bar, which is now 14 years old. We boast the world's largest collection of Amaro, as well as the world's largest collection of tincture bitters. So, and we don't use any juice. We don't shake any drinks. All drinks are stirred and bitter forward. So that was me sort of whittling down a focus. And I think that honestly translates back to my days as a chef, right? I always say, I would never even consider opening a restaurant that served sushi and spaghetti and tacos. It would be confusing to me, confusing to my team, and confusing to the consumer. Yet I think that bars often operate in this way, right? You want to have a bar where you can go get a beer and a shot and a pet nat wine and a craft, a craft beer on draft and a well made cocktail. And I feel like that's a confusing environment. So my bar, Amor y Amargo, and all my other subsequent bars I've always had like a direct focus. I had a few bars that were taken away from me because of the pandemic, but I had a bar that was all American whiskey. I had a bar that was all agave. I had a bar that was all tea. We had a
Mm,
bar called Windmill, and every cocktail on the menu involved tea in some way. So we did tea infusions, tea dilution, tea smoking, tea ice cubes, etc. Um, so I feel like and I know that's more and more common as we've moved on, but I feel like um, my career as a chef highly informs my career as a bartender.
yeah. And you broke that mold, that norm of we are everyone to everyone. And so no, we do one thing, we do it well.
Yeah, I
I
mean, I
like that.
think
Yeah.
and I think that's a common trend among everyone in every field, right? Specialization is becoming the thing, right? We of course serve delicious cocktails, but we're really serving an experience, and it's harder to give an experience, in my opinion, if you're so scattershot with what you offer.
Sure.
That's why I
Yeah.
think there's a popularity out there. I have a radio show myself. It's called The Speakeasy on Heritage Radio Network. We've been on for about a dozen years, and my co-host there, he owns a bar called Grand Army, Damon Bolte, and at his bar, every menu is a theme. You know,
Mm.
so like I remember in the early days there was one that was pink, so every drink on the menu was pink. You know, and but
Yeah.
that what that does is that even especially that menu, there was a visual cue as the
Mhm.
consumer, as the guest. You look down the bar and everybody's having a pink drink in different glasses. Some are on ice, some aren't, some are on pebble ice, whatever, but they're all the same color. So suddenly you're all here together, even if you don't know these people, right? But I think that's how my bars operate kind of always. At Amor y
Yeah.
Amargo, you look around the room, everybody's drinking a stirred bitter drink. That's just how it is.
Mm.
That's all we offer.
No margaritas in sight.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. No sound of shakers clacking. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's just stirred, and that's how it is. So I feel like that specialization gives you this feeling of instant camaraderie with the people you're with. Like when you go to, I don't know, George Motz's Burger America, we're all here for a burger, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So we're all kind of in it together. So suddenly that builds a little bit more community. It builds a little bit more, I don't know, friendliness. I live in New York City. Arguably the one of the toughest markets and most busy. And it is a nightly occurrence for 14 years now. Even after the pandemic, waned, I was fearful that this example that I'm about to give wouldn't return, and it has returned. Which is
Mhm.
to say, my bar gets very crowded. It's quite small, 240 square feet, um, and it'll be shoulder to shoulder, and two people will be standing there having their drinks, and two new people are standing there looking at the menu, and then people looking at the menu might say, "Oh, I think I'm going to try the Sharpie mustache," and one of those two is having the Sharpie mustache, and he'll literally go, "Yeah, I'm having it. Try it." Total strangers
Oh
will
yeah.
share drinks. You know what I mean? Um, so because there's something about it, the space and the menu tells you we're all here together. I don't know. I think I went off on a
Mhm.
tangent there, but
No, no, that's
I
perfect.
hope I
Yeah.
answered your
No, and
question.
I was so fascinated by Amor y Amargo because it sounds like a bar made for me. Because like that
It
is
is.
what I
Come on.
drink. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I could get my wife to go in because she is lighter cocktails, beer, but I like a Manhattan, like any of the old style format cocktails. Like
Sure.
that's my bread and butter.
I mean, we say in the 14 years we've been open, we've only made 3 drinks. Every single drink we've made follows the templates of either an old fashioned, a Manhattan, or a Negroni.
Yeah.
Spirit sugar water bitters, that's the old fashioned. Spirit vermouth bitters, that's the Manhattan. Spirit vermouth Amaro and bitters, that's the Negroni. And that's what we do. That's all we have.
If you're enjoying this so far, please take a moment, hit like, subscribe, share it with someone that you know would enjoy it. It'd mean the world to me, and it really does help this show grow. All right, back to it. Yeah. I've heard you talk about bitter in our ancestral evolution equals dangerous.
Yeah.
And so, one thing I did want to ask you is from that beginning, bitter equals dangerous, how did you go from doing that to focusing exclusively on bitters? Like, is this a progression you see with people as they taste more, they develop and kind of open up to this bitter element, or?
Oh, 100%. I mean, anecdotally, If you go to or work at, I'm going to challenge your listener who works at a bar. If you work at a bar, especially a restaurant bar where this kind of order might come over the rail, and you get a ticket from a table that you can't even see, and it says, three guests, you got a amaretto sour, you got a, an old fashioned, and you've got a, crisp, dry vodka martini. You can almost guess that
The
that's a
ages.
maybe the young
Yeah.
person, her dad having the old fashioned and her mom having that crisp martini. Throw in a
Mhm.
fourth, like you got a Godfather, and it's like maybe Grandpa's at the table too, right? As you get older, um, all of us, we start out, and this is the biological imperative that you're referring to. Biologically, coming out of the womb, we are predisposed to desire sweetness, right? We're looking for sugar. And the reason is sugar is typically calorically dense, it's typically not poisonous, and it's good for survival. Um, but as we experiment with the things around us, we taste other things, and we experience, umami, sour, salty, and bitter. Those are the five favorite flavors that we taste, right? Sweet, sour,
Mm.
salty, umami, and bitter.
It
Um,
tracks. Yeah.
yeah. Um, Sorry, I just saw someone in my backyard and freaked me out for a second.
Oh, yeah.
um, we come out of the womb with a desire for sweetness because that's good for our survival as not only a single person but as a species at large, right? So the same is true on the opposite end, right? Bitterness, things that grow naturally on planet Earth that are bitter, are typically poisonous or dangerous in some way, and we are hardwired as a species to recognize this at all costs because it could be dangerous not only to our single self but to the species at large.
Mhm.
However, over time, we understand that we can taste bitter things in moderation and understand that they aren't going to kill us in moderation. And then we
Mhm.
acquire a taste for them, right? I always say, like, if kids ran the world, we wouldn't have broccoli, right? It's too bitter for
Yeah.
them. But as we get older, we say, I
Or
like
coffee.
broccoli.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like broccoli. I like coffee. I like endive. I like, arugula. And then
Mhm.
when we talk about alcohol, which is in fact a poison, alcohol is all bitter, all of it, right? It all has a
Mhm.
bitterness to it. So we perceive that immediately and right away. And so then when we get into the world of like bitter alcohols, wow, we're kind of like doubling down. It's twice the poison. Um, and it's just a matter of acquiring the taste for it and then desiring it, right? And we do, again, as a
Mhm.
species, as we get older, our palates tend to lean more and more to the bitter side. There's a strange phenomenon that happens, in specifically men, where at a certain age you start to go the other way, right? You get more and more bitter. And like, for instance, you might look at your own anecdotal evidence of your own grandparents. Like my grandfather,
Mhm.
before he passed away, at the end, when I was a kid, this guy, he's from Scotland. When I was a kid, this guy drank just tons and tons of whiskey and he ate, steak and potatoes. And by the end, he was drinking Kahlua and eating like Little Debbie snack cakes for dinner. You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
his palate just reversed. However, women typically continue down the bitter trail and they'll continue to eat more and more, less and less sweet things as they get older. Strange.
Weird, weird. Yeah, because before you divided that by gender, I was thinking maybe evolutionarily there's like a propensity to think bitter is danger, and as you get weaker and older, you go sweeter. But that it's a gender divide too.
Yeah,
That's weird.
pretty strange.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm no scientist.
Yeah.
I've
Exactly.
played
Yeah.
one on TV.
Exactly. Are so one thing I did want to ask you, and I was really fascinated about. I've never heard someone, you know, kind of tear apart the distinction between aperitif and digestif, and kind of say
Okay.
this is a largely cultural division, and it is truly just bitter, and we've drawn the line. Was that yours, or have you seen that in other people's writing? There,
No, I mean, I think I know what you're alluding to, and I'll follow it up. Right, based on what we just
yeah.
said, bitterness is perceived as poison. Well, how does that work in the physiology of the human frame? Um, What happens is the bitterness touches your tongue. It is perceived as bitter. As I mentioned, we're always going to perceive it, no matter
Mhm.
if we try and hide it. And a good example of that is like Jägermeister. Jägermeister used to have that frozen machine where you drink this rocket cold product. It's got 56 ingredients and it's delicious. I'm a huge fan of Jägermeister. It's got galangal and ginger and grapefruit and cinnamon and anise. And like, I love this stuff. But when you put it in that machine that they make themselves and you freeze it to such a temperature that's lower than than freezing because it's alcohol, it can go lower than 32 degrees and still remain a liquid. Um, it numbs the sense of aroma, right? Aroma dictates 90% of flavor, and that's a crazy statistic, but it's true.
Hmm.
We only taste those 5 things I listed before, but we smell thousands of things. So when we say
Yes.
sour, if we didn't have the aroma, the difference between an orange and a lemon, they would just taste the same, right? But it's the aroma that makes
Yeah.
the difference.
No, if you don't believe him, get COVID.
Yeah, no, I
Find
had it.
out for
Yeah, no, man,
yourself. Yeah.
when I had,
It is nice that anosmia really entered the public awareness
yeah,
through
right.
that. It's like
Remember the
we all
Yankee
know
Candle
now. Yeah.
scandal?
Yeah.
So so when you freeze a product, put a rose in your freezer for 3 hours. It smells like nothing, right? And if you were planning to eat that rose, then whatever flavor it had, it would be numbed. So when you have that frozen thing, it numbs your ability to smell, which then numbs your ability to taste. Except bitter. Bitter is going to shine through. Bitter is always going to shine through. Um,
Mm.
and so what happens then? So when your tongue perceives that bitterness, your brain perceives that bitterness on your tongue, the brain sends a signal to the gastrointestinal system to say, activate, remove, get this out.
Mhm.
And if
I've
you're,
made a mistake.
yeah, yeah, you potentially, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing you have to learn, and you have to kind of like trick yourself into saying like, no, I'm going to be okay. Like in this very instant synapse. Um, I haven't ingested enough of this to be detrimental. Um, but so if you're on an empty stomach, so now getting back to your question of digestif versus aperitif. Aperitif typically we drink before a meal, digestif typically after. Um, what's happening is if I have an empty stomach and I have, say, whatever, an Aperol spritz, that's an aperitif. Brain perceives poison, tells the system to activate and remove stuff. And I'm being sort of genteel about what I'm saying here. We're trying to
Mm. Oh,
start the system, but there's nothing in there.
yes.
So that causes hunger.
Hmm.
You have teased your appetite. Um, Conversely, at the opposite end, when you finished your meal and you have a Fernet Branca or what have you, the brain perceives that as poison, says move the system and get things out, and that's what helps you digest, right?
Hmm.
You can see the same thing happening when you have your cup of coffee in the morning. You wake up, you have your coffee, it inspires some hunger, it also inspires some movement, right?
Hmm.
It's triggering the system. So the difference between the two is none on paper. We've
Hmm.
categorized them to be, citrusy, lighter, brighter, pretty lower in ABV.
Those are the
Those are your
aperitifs. Yeah.
aperitifs, but you're more brooding, dark, higher ABV. That's the medicinal ones. That's the ones you have after dinner. But if you want to have a Fernet before
Yeah.
lunch and an Aperol spritz after lunch, that's up to you.
Exactly.
There's no
Yeah.
police. No one's policing this yet.
I think it's exactly the same as there's no cultural imperative, no ruler saying that you have to do salad, entree, dessert. You could do dessert, entree, salad if you want.
Yeah, right. The
Some
French eat
people
their
end with
salad last.
salads, but
Let's have dessert first because life's uncertain. Yeah, I get it.
yeah, yeah, but it kind of fell into that progression because it kind of makes sense in certain ways.
Yeah,
But
of course. I mean, I think as a species, also, if we're going to continue talking about our species, we're want at all times to categorize, pigeonhole, box. We want everything to be neatly and tidily put away, right? Even though
Mhm.
when we speak with reason, we understand that nothing is that neat. But we want everything to be just like left, right, up, down, on, off.
Yes, yes. And, before I get into the book, because I do promise we're going to talk about this.
Yeah, cool.
Other thing I loved, and I think I read it in the book. I have quotes that we'll deal with separately. Um, the fact that someone could come into your bar, Amor y Amargo, and they can order a drink that was on the menu right from the beginning. Like
Yeah.
I never thought, it's such a weird thing for you to say we make nothing, essentially, like no
Yep.
compound syrup. So,
Nope.
but it's such a bonus. Like I deal
And it
with
is a
this
bonus.
every day.
That
Yeah.
was not part of the plan. We realized
Hmm.
that I don't know, a few menus in. Basically what you're alluding to is at Amor y Amargo, we only use products coming straight out of a bottle. We don't make anything. We don't infuse anything. The only sugar we have is cane syrup from Martinique, and we only use it in old fashions. We don't use any
Hmm.
juice. So like, when I say we don't make anything, we don't squeeze juice. We don't use any.
Hmm.
Everything's alcoholic. Currently, we're moving into a few NA products because the demands of the
The
times.
way of the world.
But it's
Yeah.
harder for us, and we can get into that too. It's more difficult for us because, again, I don't have anything to mix it with.
Hmm.
We
Yeah.
mix alcohol with alcohol with alcohol. That's all we have. For years, I've said the only non-alcoholic ingredient on the bar at Amor y Amargo is water. I have flat, frozen, and bubbly. Um, Other than that, you've got spirits, vermouths, amari, bitters. They're all alcoholic. I'm just mixing alcohol
You,
with alcohol with alcohol.
you said that like someone who's tended that bar hundreds of times.
Yeah, but
You
so
got that.
yeah,
Yeah.
so So we realized then if we're not making anything, then everything we have is shelf stable. Then as long as the bottles still exist, and some bottles have come and gone over the time, 14 years,
Hmm.
you can walk in and order a drink off of any menu we've ever had, and we can make you that drink because we don't have to say, well, when we had that drink on, we made a pink peppercorn, lavender, honey infusion that we don't make right now, so I can't make that drink.
Hmm.
Everything comes out of a bottle. If the bottle is here, I can make you the drink. There's
Oh
a
yeah.
drink called the Francais Foreplay that was on the very first menu, and people come in sometimes and they're like, "Do you still have that French drink?" And I'm like, "Yep, sure."
Let's do it. Yeah.
you know,
No, I read that and I got a just quick bout of jealousy because every single night I have someone because I'm in a spot where it's about 50% travelers, 50% local.
hmm
And it's, a lot of business guys that fly through and have been here like once 3 years ago. And it's like, do you still do the, strawberry crush? And it's like, well, we do not make that syrup anymore.
yeah,
We got something similar every night.
yeah.
So,
Well, but there's
yeah.
something to be said for that too.
Hmm.
We have a I have a nomenclature. I'm working on another book, but I have a nomenclature list for my guests. I have the regular. Of course, we all know what a regular is. It's someone who comes often and is good to me, is good to the bar, the people around them, is good to the bar in general, and talks well about us outside of here. We've got the satellite regular, same as a regular, but maybe lives in a different town and only comes once every 3 years, like you just said, or whatever. But they're
Hmm.
all that. Then you've got all these other ones, but the one I was going to talk about is we got the last menu crew. You got people who come in and they never want what's on the current menu. They always want
This,
what was on the last menu. So they're weirdly just
yeah.
one menu behind. But we
Why did
definitely
you
have
have to
those guys come
change
in.
the Caesar? I don't understand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we definitely have those folks who come in and they're just always they always want to drink what they didn't drink it when it was live, but now that we've
Oh, that's
changed the menu,
awesome.
they want what was on the last menu.
That's so funny that, what we are 3, maybe 4 states apart, never met before today, and we have the exact same crew that comes through
Oh yeah,
here.
man.
So,
They are us. They're all us.
yeah. No. Okay. So, I wanted to start one of my favorite quotes at the beginning. I believe cocktails can be complicated, but drinking them doesn't have to be. Making them doesn't either. Right from your intro, and it's right after you get done talking about service and the value of service. So,
Mm,
like, I thought that was a beautiful way to start the book. So,
thank you.
yeah. Is that your basic thesis? Just, we can enjoy these complicated things, but we don't have to make it that complicated, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. I think in a lot of ways, um, that is my ethos. I was a chef for a long time, and in that world, I was known as a technician, right? Which means
Hmm.
whatever it is I'm doing it the correct way, whatever that correct way is. If I'm going to make Mexican food, we're going to do it correctly. We're going to do Italian food. I'm not like a very fusion driven type person.
Hmm.
Um, I'm a classicist basically. Like I want to do things classically well, and that translates to my world in the bar as well. And I think that classically drinks are pretty uncomplicated. And let's not eschew the notion that I um, don't enjoy those kind of drinks and don't do those drinks in some of my establishments in the past. And also, like, I was on the opening team at Booker and Dax, if people remember that bar.
Some of the craziest cocktail involved stuff I've
Well,
ever read.
I,
I mean,
I got
Liquid
involved.
Intelligence is a great book. Yeah,
Yeah, I got
that's
involved with
yeah.
Dave Arnold because we knew each other from my time when I was a chef, and he was like, "I'm opening a bar, and I'm going to need chefs there because we're going to use a lot of chef tools and techniques. Would you like to come?" And I was like, "100%, let's do it." Amor was
Hmm.
already opened, and I just went over there and was on the opening team for the first 6 or 7 months, and 2 of those months we weren't even open yet, and doing all the R&D, and like it's totally fun, and I get it. But for me, I think I fall back on what you just said, and you quoted me. Like it doesn't have to be complicated to to have great enjoyment of something doesn't necessarily means it has to be difficult.
Hmm.
I much prefer the sort of beauty of repetition, you know, and I quote I quote Bruce Lee about this, which seems totally germane to this conversation to talk about Bruce Lee, right? Bruce Lee famously said, "I don't fear the man who practices 10,000 punches one time each. I fear the man who practices one punch 10,000 times." So I
Exactly.
take that to mean like I've definitely made 10,000 Negronis, so fear me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've
Like,
definitely had 10,000 Negronis, so some people should probably fear me too.
yeah, I mean, it is in that repetition that you find the sort of like zenith of the thing that you're doing. That is what craft is. It shocks me
Hmm.
sometimes when I interview younger bartenders and I ask them, what how do you define craft? And they'll say, you know, using a centrifuge to create something new. And I'm like, there's certainly part of that, but craft is really repetition. Craft is
Hmm.
being able to say, I've done this so many times, I can do it without really thinking about it. Um, and becoming, sort of like, I don't get like too lofty here, but like becoming sort of zen about it.
Yeah. No, and there is a, there's a kind of fussiness that comes with the reliance on tools and all these special, like, I've always told people, get me behind a bar with a mixing glass and like a spoon. I'll probably figure something out,
Yeah, for sure.
do enough bar shifts. Yeah. Um, yeah. Um, awesome. Just moving on. I
Hmm.
wanted to shout out your Clover Club recipe. I know it's not yours. I know it's a classic,
Yep.
but you in the book, I'm just here for the drinks. You use aquafaba.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you inspired me actually, and I wanted to share this story. At my restaurant, we make our sweet and sour in house. We fresh squeeze, and we add a little bit of egg white
Sure.
just to give it a little bit of emulsification.
Hmm.
Listed on the menu, so it's on there because egg allergies are a thing. And I had a girl, and it's been 3.5 years ago. And a server is dealing with a girl with an egg allergy, and he is walking her through, and I mean, he's hitting everything. He's hitting the foods, but he just completely forgets the egg white in the margarita. And luckily, it wasn't one of those like anaphylactic situations.
Hmm.
And we comped the meal and we apologized, and it was a complete mistake. It was listed on the menu. We try to do these things to not have this happen, but man, that sucked.
Yeah.
And I read this, and I've used fresh aquafaba, and I never thought to use aquafaba in our sweet and sour mix. So we're actually demoing it after
Oh,
after reading your book. So
oh, that's
thank
great.
you. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think
It's
all you're looking for there is a protein matrix.
mhm,
Going back to my like cooking days and like reaching for On Food and Cooking by Harold McGee, which is the book that was my North Star in my whole time doing that career, and frankly in this one too. We're really just looking for something that will create a matrix that will bind things together. Um, for a longer time than a temporary emulsion, right?
mhm,
And that can come from obviously protein in an egg white, but beans are quite proteinaceous as well. So you can like it's an easy swap for me. The other thing is, frankly, I don't think people have put this two and two together. The average consumer, I think bartenders have put it together long ago. Typically when you have an egg white drink, the garnish on that drink is some amount of bitters on top of the drink. Of course, we like to make little hearts and draw our little things and make stripes and all the thing. And why do we do that? Well, certainly it adds to the flavor. Egg whites have a specific smell.
wet dog.
Wet dog. I wanted
Yeah.
you to say it before I did, right? It's
Yeah.
like cilantro, soap. Everybody says the same answer. It smells like wet dog. So you put those bitters on top of the drink so that it masks or hides that wet dog um,
Hmm.
aroma. Because again, aroma 90% of flavor. I don't want to taste wet dog.
Sure.
um,
Yeah.
so aquafaba doesn't have that wet dog situation. So I like to use aquafaba for that too. The problem with aquafaba is you can't generally produce as much as you need in even in a restaurant situation. Uh, Suddenly you have more chickpeas than you want, and you can't make enough hummus or fried
Yes.
chickpeas or whatever. You can't give them away fast enough. Um,
Yeah.
so it doesn't. It's a scaling issue.
Sure. Have you ever used the dried aquafaba? Is that worth investigating
I've
or?
not personally used it, but I would absolutely investigate it. 100%.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, that's what we're in trial. I've got it for tonight to
Oh,
play
rad.
around with. But
Oh, I'd love to hear
yeah,
your
because
results.
yeah, I'll send them over, and
Yeah.
I'll send you some. It'll hopefully be a triumph or maybe a cautionary tale. We'll find
Listen,
out.
either way, it's a story.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, before I go to the next one too, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask the idea of the definitions for the different categories, because like every category you define the word and you give a couple and then you always have one that's funny or off the
Yeah,
wall.
vodka
Was that
is
your? Or-
vodka is like water with consequences.
Exactly, yeah. So was that your idea, or was that
That was my
something?
editor and I. My editor and I
Okay.
are old friends. The
Mhm,
entire coming together of the book is because of him. He was a bartender as well, alongside me at a place, and then I hired him to work for me at another place, and then he went on to become the editor of Topics Media Lab. Um, and he came in for drinks at Amor y Amargo one night with his birthday, actually, with his wife and another couple, and I got them just absolutely tanked. And at Amore, we also sell some stuff. We sell books and we sell barware and we sell bitters. Bitters is the main thing we sell because bitters are a
cool.
grocery item. It's not liquor. I'm not a liquor store, so I can sell bitters. Um, and I pulled down off the shelf a copy of Amaro by my good friend Brad Thomas Parsons, and there's a full page photo of me in the book Amaro on page 16. And I whipped it open to
Mhm.
page 16, and I just signed it. I said, his name's Jeff, my um, editor. I said, "Hey Jeff, I'm glad you spent your birthday with me. When are we going to write a book?" And about when his
Ah.
hangover cleared about 2 weeks later, um, he reached out and he was like, "Are you serious about this?" And I said, "Yeah." So I got a chance to, really, I didn't have to shop around. I didn't have to put out pages first. He knew who I was and he knew
Mhm.
my style, and so it was a real pleasure to work with him. Also, it really taught me that everybody you see that writes a book of any kind, like they thank their spouse, they thank God, and they thank their fucking editor.
No, sure.
So
Yeah,
yeah, it's hard work to do, and having a guy like that in your camp is pretty awesome.
yeah, and it's kinda thankless work too, but
A little, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Like that's crazy for me to think that the work that he did with me on that one book, he does that kind of work weekly with authors. He's cranking out, multiple books a year.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Did he really make you put vodka first, or was that a joke?
Nope, that was mine. So I thought it was just a natural progression, right? Because
Yeah.
I've often said, in the world of distilling, everything starts off as vodka. Actually, I back up. Everything starts off as beer, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And that's true. So you can wave your arm broadly at your whole back bar and say, all of this started as beer. Even that one I'm pointing at, Chinar. All of this started
Yeah.
as beer, then it became vodka, then it became what it is. So I thought
Mhm.
vodka had to be the first place to start, even though I don't use any vodka at my bar. I do have vodka at my home. It's in my freezer where it should be, so that it's rocket cold without any dilution. It's already water flavored. I don't want to water it down, and I don't mix it. For me, the mixer for vodka is food, right? I want to have vodka with
Yeah.
something salty, like salt and vinegar potato chips, or I want to have vodka with something, fatty, like a pate, or something briny, like oysters or pickles, right? So, and I want it in a small glass, and I want to drink it in quick bursts,
Sure.
shots. um,
Alright. You went to my college too, okay.
yeah.
No.
So like vodka seemed like the place to begin, because everything starts as a ferment, which is basically a beer. Then it gets distilled into everything that comes out of a still is clear as water and high in proof. That's effectively vodka. It's then what happens next. So then each chapter progressed to, because I broke the book as you're referring, I broke the book into chapters of spirits. Um,
Mhm. Yeah. And, on that note too, how many of these drink names are yours? Because I think I'm good
if
at
it's
naming drinks, but I was very impressed that like
Wow,
some of
that
the
really
best
makes
names
me
for
feel good.
drinks.
Thank you. Because
Yeah.
they're all mine, with the exception of classic cocktails. They're all my names.
That's
And
awesome.
I agonize over naming a cocktail.
Mhm.
I will spend
Yeah.
10 times more time naming the cocktail than making it. And I'm gonna probably upset a few of your listeners by saying this. I do not have like a Rolodex of like, I think this would make a great cocktail name. No, the cocktail has to tell me its name. I can't name it before I've even thought of it.
Mhm.
And I refer to my dear friend Jim Meehan in this regard. Jim's book, The Meehan Manual, had a segment in there about this that resonated with
Yeah.
me hard. And this came long after my career, but and even after my book, but this resonated with me hard because it defines the way I think about this. Jim said very succinctly, "A cocktail's only marketing campaign is its name.
Mhm.
There are many great cocktails that we've never heard of because they had shitty names, and there are 10 times as many shitty cocktails that have great names that we all know."
Right. Eric Tukoski's been on here, former brand rep for Jack Daniels,
Hmm.
Surfer on Acid.
Yep, he's amazing.
I don't know if I would drink that drink, but man, that is a great name. Like
Yeah,
he nailed that one.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
He's great.
awesome.
His company is great too. Dirty Sue.
Yeah, they do a really great job.
Yeah.
He was at, so back in the day I was in a couple, I used to do bar contests, and I don't do drink contests anymore. I'm just management now, but he he judged a gentleman jack contest I did, and he when I lived in New Mexico, we did New Mexico Cocktail Week, and so he'd always come out and support us. So
Yeah.
super great guy. Yeah.
Awesome dude.
I'm I'm excited. Jim's coming on. If we can ever get our schedules to align, he's got a new book out. So
Oh yeah.
yeah.
What's it called? Pantry. Something I can't remember the name.
Yeah, Bar Pantry. I finished it. It's been about a month. It's all about sustainable sourcing of the ingredients. It's all the stuff that you like. All the books about cocktails and drinks all focus on the booze aspect mostly. Like, look at yours, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's everything that doesn't have alcohol in it. Essentially, the eggs, the like, the mixers. That
Yeah. Syrups,
it's super
jams,
cool.
fruits,
So
whatever.
yeah, all over the place.
Yeah. I tried to make.
Um,
I mean, I tried to make my book. I did not write my book for industry specific because we
mhm.
are the smaller group, right? Go to a bar. There's one bartender and 100 people in the room, right?
Sure,
We're the
yeah.
smaller percentage. Also, strangely enough, we're the smaller percentage of a small percentage, right? People who drink sort of quote unquote craft cocktails are not numerous. So
Hmm.
my book, I think I tried to shred into enough reference material to satisfy the curiosity of professionals, with enough
Sure.
anecdotal material to engage with the consumer,
Mhm.
with enough pretty pictures to make the person who doesn't want to read have a good time too.
Sure, yeah. Which, I'm a little bit of all three, and
I think I
I
am
wanna
too. Listen,
oh,
I've got books that I
yeah,
thumb through. I've got books that I dive into. I've got books that I just, that sit around and look nice on my shelf.
sure,
And
yeah,
that accounts for cocktail and cookbooks as well as just books in general.
yeah. Uh, I think, just kind of moving along, I
Yeah.
think your take on, prohibition booze, I don't know if I've ever heard it spun this way, but you put, "After all, if you can make a deadly ounce or two of varnish taste good enough for your customers to order another round, there's a pretty good chance your recipe will be even better with unadulterated spirits."
Yeah.
So I thought that is one of the better takes I've heard on the
Well,
prohibition cocktails. And
sure. Well, it all comes back
yeah,
to when I was an instructor at the New England Culinary Institute up in Montpelier, Vermont. I taught a class called Taste and Flavor, where we talked about a lot of things, obviously. Um, but one of the lectures I gave involved the Venn diagram of only two circles. One circle is everybody likes this. One circle is only I like this. These two circles almost completely overlap. There's just a small sliver on one side that is like, everybody likes chocolate, except there's always that one guy in the room who doesn't like chocolate. Fuck that guy.
mhm.
Everybody likes chocolate, right? And then the other sliver
Yeah.
is like, only I like anchovies with my ice cream, right? That's just me. Um,
Huh. I'm like,
otherwise,
I'm actually going to try that now.
well, yeah, so that's what I'm
I'm
gonna,
willing to try everything
right.
once.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
gonna get to. So otherwise, we generally speaking, like all of us like the same stuff.
Hmm.
Now, here's where it gets a little bit tricky when you add alcohol to the mix. We have a Rolodex from being children of flavors of food that we enjoy or don't enjoy. I can say, I just said it. I said anchovies. Your listener, as the listener, you can taste anchovies right now, whether you like them or not. They're oily, they're salty, they're fishy. My mouth's starting to water. I can taste anchovies now. There are no anchovies in the room, right? We have this
Hmm.
Rolodex. We're pretty powerful with our memory of how things taste. So if I say I like anchovies, I like iced cream, vanilla, creamy, custardy, smooth on my palate, sweet, right? I can taste vanilla ice cream. There's none in the room. I can then say vanilla ice cream and anchovies. Can I taste them together? I can. And in my brain, if they work in my brain, they will likely work in real life,
Hmm.
right? You're not going to make an egregious mistake. If it works in your brain, it'll likely work in real life.
Hmm.
So that is to say, the problem with alcohol is you didn't start drinking till you were 21 in this country, supposedly. But you
Yes.
certainly didn't start cataloging those flavors until you were maybe 25, even 28, possibly even 30. So you simply don't
Hmm.
have a good enough Rolodex to say in your brain, what'll happen if I add peaches to bourbon? Well, fucking hey, I know what bourbon tastes like, and I know what peaches taste like. This is a go. You want to add some cinnamon in there somewhere, maybe some cinnamon syrup and some fresh peaches and some bourbon. We got a ball game here. Put a little lemon in there. We're good to go, right?
Hmm.
But if you don't have that Rolodex of what bourbon tastes like, or what Cynar tastes like, or what Jägermeister tastes like, then you're up against this sort of cloudy, hazy space that you're afraid to walk into. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. And
So my
the listener
recommendation
at home.
so
Oh,
my
sorry.
recommendation always is to like Rolodex this stuff. Like I
Mhm.
still to this day go to the grocery store, even just the local one here, or definitely when I'm at a farmer's market. I'm picking things up. I'm smelling them. Aromas 90% of flavor. I'm mentally jotting those down, sometimes physically, literally jotting those down so I can come back to that later and be like, man, I found this cool new melon. It's called Hami, Hami. Looks like a elongated cantaloupe. Tastes like a um, somewhere between a honeydew and a cantaloupe, but has the texture of a watermelon. What's going on with this melon? How can I use this melon in something later? Right? I'm Rolodexing this stuff. And that's true, by the way. I found the Hami melon. Never had one before. Just had one for the first time this summer, and now I've had like five. They're amazing. Um, so I think that my one of my big recommendations to the consumer, the curious consumer of alcohol, is like start Rolodexing these things,
Mhm.
so that you have this place to pull from that you then can pull with confidence, and also rely
Yeah.
on your fellow man. If we all kind of like the same things, then if somebody else is doing it, you'll probably be okay if you do it.
Yeah. John liked it.
Yeah, you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
might as
Like I'm
well.
not gonna be the first
Yeah.
person to eat an oyster, but people eat oysters, right? Okay, I'll have one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny that you use ice cream there. One of my strange but
Summertime. Just thinking
very
about ice cream.
like, I mean, like my strange but deep. Like I think about this all the time. My only trip to Lodi, I went as a som, and it was a like tasting adventure sort of thing, and we got to taste with Tegan. He's the guy that does the like Turley's, a lot of their old vine
Oh yeah.
stuff. He brought some chartreuse from his house, and he's like, everyone needs to drink this with ice cream, and it's a combination I would have probably never put together,
Sure.
but man, it is good. And I wonder if ice cream just tastes so good that anything added to it would also usually taste good. But
Is ice cream the ketchup of the world?
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Or if you've ever seen Parks and Rec, Andy's like, my favorite food is actually butter.
yeah,
I like butter on popcorn. I like butter this.
yeah, it goes with pretty much everything. Yeah, I
Uh huh.
mean, back when I taught at the culinary school, Taste and Flavor was a weekly foie gras investigation, and we would taste
Mm.
just a simple piece of seared foie gras with 12 accoutrements, right? And six of those accoutrements remained always, but at the end of each class, the I would allow the students to pick the other six for the next class. And the idea was that there's nothing that doesn't go with foie gras.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fat,
Interesting.
fatty, rich thing like butter, as you just said. Compare with something salty. Compare with something savory. Compare with something sweet. Compare, like
Hmm.
there's no wrong answer here.
Yeah.
But to
And it,
but
but
to tease your brain and literally put it to work and test it is the thing.
yeah. And, you know, it is interesting too. I'm thinking, had I never had chartreuse and I saw that on a menu, I probably would never give it a try because you don't even have these flavor references, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's to Rolodex that flavor, right? And then you can say like, wow, would a ounce pour of chartreuse over a scoop of vanilla ice cream be delicious or horrifying, right? Well, if you just taste chartreuse on its own, it's got some vanilla notes. Obviously, it's quite vegetal. It's pretty sweet. It's high in ABV, so it's kind of got a little bit of a burn, but that burn is also kind of sweet. Like these all
Hmm.
start to track as well. Oh, was it vanilla ice cream? Was it chocolate ice cream? Was it Rocky Road ice cream? Where do we go wrong now, right?
Yeah.
Or can we, right?
Interesting. It was vanilla for the record, but all right. One other quote, and then I think we're getting close to the end of our time today.
Hmm.
It's how to fill out a bar, that section. So
How to feel out a
then
bar?
there,
Yeah.
yeah, then there are more specialized spots that serve better quality items with a staff that's more drink savvy, but they still offer things they probably shouldn't in an effort to please a wider audience. Yes, you can get a frozen pina colada in Cleveland, but it likely won't be as good as what you'd get in the Florida Keys.
Right.
That is going to be an example I use, I think, always. You could probably get a pina colada in Cleveland, but do you want?
You definitely can. You can go to Porco Lounge and Tiki Room in Cleveland, Ohio, and it's awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm sure. Yeah.
but I think what I'm trying to say in that quote is, you know, there's time and place for things, and I understand that alcohol is certainly about escapism. We
Mhm.
want to travel in the glass, strangely more so than we do with food, I think, um, because we're also getting a reaction out of the drink, right? We're getting a buzz, we're getting a euphoric feeling, we're feeling happy about it. But what I'm really, I guess, trying to say in that statement there is that take a look at the environment you're in.
Mhm.
I'll go back to that list of of people who come to the bar. One of them, I call them dogs, and it's not in a derogatory way, but a dog to me is someone who they drink whatever they drink, Doers on the rocks. Whether it's 10 degrees or 110 degrees, whether it's their birthday, their anniversary, their kid's christening, they drink
Mhm.
Doers on the rocks.
They've been trained to
That's
like
like that's like
it.
my dog, man. My dog has no
Yeah.
choice. My dog eats the same food. It doesn't matter if it's 10 degrees, 110 degrees, his birthday, my birthday, Christmas. He's getting the same dish. That's it. That's how the dog works. Um, you don't have to be a dog, right? You can expand and explore, and you can drink to the season, to the occasion, to the atmosphere. And I think what we're really talking about here is the atmosphere, right? So the atmosphere dictates. Just because you always drink, let's use the pina colada. Just because you're a big fan of pina coladas doesn't mean that everywhere you go is going to make a good one. Doesn't
Mhm.
mean that everywhere you go is going to be able to make one at all. But the problem is, if they happen to have those ingredients, whether they've got the skill or the know-how, it's hospitality. They don't want to say no to you, so they're going to
Mhm.
try, and it might be a bad experience for them and you, right? And who wants that, right? Who wants to? Don't you got to take a look around. If you walk into a dive bar, and which I love, listen, I'm wearing my International Bar shirt right now. I don't know if that's a very very well known dive bar in New York City,
Yeah.
um, that I love. It's a block away from Amor y Amargo. It's open until 4 nightly. Um, But if you walk into the International Bar and have never been there, and the floor is kind of sticky,
Mhm.
and you look down the bar and everyone's got a glass bottle of beer in front of them and a short glass of something without ice right next to it. Maybe this isn't the place to have your Negroni just because you always drink Negronis, even though they might have gin, they might have Campari, and they might have vermouth.
Was a
Is
poor spout, but they have it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
sitting up on the back bar for the past 8 years. Um, you know, do they have the means and know-how? Do they have any sense of the ratio? Do they have, is that their world of expertise? Again, I always refer back to restaurants because I think we have a longer experience with restaurants and we just understand them, how they
Mhm.
work a little bit better. You simply wouldn't walk into a sushi bar and order a hamburger, even if a hamburger is kind of all you eat. The
Yeah.
problem is they might try and make you one. It's not going to be good for them or for you. Everybody's going to wind up unhappy here,
Mhm.
right? Because it's hospitality. They don't want to say no to you. So I think the onus, what I'm really saying in that statement, I guess, is the onus is on you, the consumer, the guest, to suss the place out. Make sure you're aware of the expertise of the place that you're in so that you can most enjoy what it is they're offering.
Yes. And all this to kind of circle back to the beginning and say, don't go and see you for a margarita. Not an Amor and Amargo. Yes.
No,
Look
but I can
around.
tell you where to go get
Yes.
one nearby.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
I'm a concierge for my neighborhood. I'm a concierge for my city. I'm a concierge for my country, maybe even the
A
world.
true bartender.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I want to tell you. I want to tell you where to go.
Exactly. Awesome. Hey, so the Teague, thank you for taking a little bit of time out of your day to come and say hi and talk to me.
Andrew,
I
it's my
really enjoyed
pleasure.
the book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. I'm so happy you're enjoying it. I'm happy that people do enjoy it. It's gotten a lot of great response, and I'm working on another one, so stay tuned for that. I do have another one. It only comes out. It comes out every year around Christmas time. It's called Let's Get Blitzin'. It's all holiday cocktails.
Oh,
Um,
heck yeah.
I'll get your
Well, I
address.
was going to ask what the listener at home, what should they, where could they find out more about you and what do you got working on it?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, man! I'm all over the internet. I am creative drunk on most platforms. I'm most active on Instagram. I also, of course, have Amor y Amargo. That's Amor, the letter Yamargo. It means love and bitters. Of course, that's what we do. We love bitters. Um,
Mhm.
I have my radio show called the Speakeasy Podcast on Heritage Radio Network. Right now, we're in the middle of Ice Week, and we're giving away a Claris Clear Ice maker to celebrate that. So go check that out. Um, yeah, and I'm an open book. I do all my own
Yeah.
social media. I respond to all my DMs. If you have any questions, follow ups, anything about this show, anything stupid I said you want to call me out on, hit me.
Awesome. And those of you that are in your car driving, don't have a way to write that down. All those are going to be in the show notes. So fear not, you'll have access to all those. So
Good man.
awesome. Well, hey, have an awesome day. Have an awesome shift tonight. Rock and roll, man.
Thanks, buddy. I really appreciated being on, and I look forward to hearing this when it goes out. Cheers.
Sounds great. Thank you again for listening. If you have not, please like, subscribe, and also leave a comment on this show. Every interaction is really, really appreciated. I respond personally to every message, comment I get. Episodes of this show come out every Tuesday, every week. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, and I'm looking forward to talking to you again soon. Thank you.